welcome to the law series here on Dark Matters. So many of you have been following the channel and are aware of the work that I do with the last Blue Boar of England. Well, today the man of the hour is here with us to talk all things constitutional, law v legal, void orders from bullshit administrative courts, and the rest of the system's fraudulent activities. Take your pick. Theft of our intangible, our executive power of attorney, connivance of the court staff in fraud and deception, malfeasence, misfeasence, nonfeasence, all the feasences, judges, and we use that term loosely with no oaths or bonds stating mere corporate affirmations, no compliance to their own UCC 1 to 103 codes stating their jurisdiction, breach of the Nolan principles, the 7 principles of public life, the common law crime of uttering, aka forging documents, treason against the nation, the list goes on. So how silly does it have to get? How many more chickens do we have to register before the penny drops? And those who have been crashing the DEFRA registration system by registering their frozen chickens, and or those who identify as a chicken registering themselves, shame on you by logging into gov.uk guidance, register as a keeper of less than 50 chickens. I'll say no more. And yes, how childish, clogging up the system like that at gov.uk. Guidance, register as a keeper of less than 50 poultry, etc. and so on. So how much more are we willing to take and or bend over? Mr. Blue, aka Terry, is here to have this discussion with us. Terry, are you there?
I am, my dear. How are you this morning?
I'm very well, just trying to kind of wake myself up a little. So, I mean, obviously people who've been following the channel are aware of the videos we've kind of previously done together. So I was just going to have a little chat about the work that you're doing, that we're doing, and just kind of fly from there. So, I mean, obviously a hot topic at the moment is obviously you've no doubt seen this registering of the chickens. And as we know, Regis means of the king. Have you seen it, Terry, where people are actually registering their frozen ones from the freezer? And people are identifying as a chicken and registering themselves, which allegedly has crashed.
Applaud all of it. I applaud all of it. I mean, this is such a tyrannical government now that it literally will be wanting us registered. Well, they already registered as property. But I mean, it's just getting from sublime to ridiculous.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, all of this is completely nonsense. And I take my hat off to the people that have taken the time out, and I hope they keep doing it and crashing the system, because we just need to let this government know it's no more. I mean, they can take clothes, funds, lend money tax free, you name it. Watches, underwear, do whatever the hell they want, and it's okay. But we keep a few lousy chickens, and, we have to register that and then become whatever for the chickens. I mean, we're going to the ridiculous now. And all it is that... And it is just a distraction from what's going off around the world. And more importantly, what's going off in our own country. We've got a government now that is hell-bent on creating a civil war and World War III between its people and the government. You mentioned earlier that it's via the King's office or whatever that we've got to now register these things. Well, as far as I'm aware, the king resigned.
Yeah.
He's resigned. It's now nothing more than an office. He's surrendered all his powers and whatever to his parliament. Well, I beg to differ there. It's supposed to be our parliament. It's the people's parliament. And they have to do as they're told. What they've done is over years and years and years is basically power grabbed while we've been supposedly voting. We've already done that on the voting, and just literally snuck in through the back door and said, "Oh, we'll take this off and we'll take that off and we'll take this on. Oh, we'll look after you. We'll look after you," until we've got into such a place now where the courts are no longer courts of law. They're administrative courts at best, or working under UCC codes. Therefore, they don't hear you, don't see you, and don't have to speak to you. It's all about accessing the trust. We've said this many times before.
Yeah.
And it is now really getting to silliness, because there is no, they can't charge you council tax. It's unlawful. And it says so in their own handbook. I mean, I've just read their 14th edition of their council tax handbook. And it now says the liability order was removed from law. That's quote for quote. It's been removed from law. But yes, these criminal courts and criminal judges are now issuing liability orders like they're candy wrappers.
Yeah.
In pure criminality.
Yeah, and do you think, I mean, this is kind of what I think. I mean, they are really scrabbling now, aren't they? And I always say in some of like what people may class as some of the more woo-woo episodes on Dark Matters, that beast of the sea, you know, maritime, sea of time, that it's kind of flailing around, isn't it? I mean, even in, you know, and I won't go too woo-woo, but you know, astrologically, Hercules is bashing the Draco system at the moment, and we know that's where these bloodlines and you know it all kind of goes. And I don't want to go too woo on this one. I want to keep it quite factual. So, but it's just super. It's like what we've kind of discovered, isn't it, Terry? That you know, even on these summons now from, you know, from the council for council tax, they're not even pretending anymore, are they, that
No.
it's come from court? They're not even putting pretend court seals and or anything on it. It's literally just a piece of paper sent to obfuscate your mind and to confuse you with fear, force, intimidation, railroading the rest of it
It's
into.
a criminal act of harassment. It basically is just a criminal act of harassment. And deception, because they're trying to tell you something that is true that's forged. It tells you in the court's own paperwork. It tells you in the council's own paperwork.
Yeah.
It's been removed from law, but yet these thugs and threats and everything else still try and make a fake contract with you.
Yeah.
What is a presumption? You know, and a presumption is not a fact in law.
No.
And the fact is that the law works on only facts and rules of law and case law to be proven and stood the test of time. Whereas at the minute, what we're seeing is the law's gone out the window. They're violating our constitutional rights. They're hiding our constitutional rights. And basically telling us that legislation, acts, and statutes are law. They're not.
Yeah. No.
They're not at all. They can't be enforced. It's a rule, a regulation, a policy, whatever you want to look at. And I keep stating this. Ignorance is no excuse and it's no defence. And the problem that we've got is they've hoodwinked us into creating this narrative of what's law and what isn't law.
Yeah.
And then what's legal and then what is lawful. And now they're trying to do away with the lawful side of things. But the lawful one is the highest form of law, which is the constitutional law and rights of the people, what we expect. I mean, I'm not being awful, but we've all seen that Keir Starmer has now got, I mean, the last time I saw it, nearly 500,000 signatures to have him removed.
Yeah.
And again, why is he still there?
Yeah.
He's got one bad scenario straight after another of him doing whatever he's doing while everybody else is struggling.
Yeah,
and then,
like,
you know,
it.
and then there's some other rumours that are about to come out that he's tried to put some kind of, I don't know, blockade in place that it can't come out. I mean, how much more does this country have to take before we actually say, you know what, Parliament is dissolved, we remove consent? Now, the judges know it's coming, the police know it's coming, And the what is it? The government now needs to know it's coming. So what I'm suggesting is that we all now send a document to the courts, to the chief constable, to the council, and to the government, and basically state that we've removed consent from everybody because they work from our constitutional authority.
And this is the ridiculousness of it, isn't it? Like you say, with the new council tax handbook on, I think we were on the 13th and now it's the 14th.
Yep.
They actually say it in their own documents, like, you know, for those that have to see again, isn't it? It's like, you know, I wish we were making this shit up, and it does really boil down. And a great thing, especially on my journey, as you can kind of know so much, and you can kind of obfuscate, as I say, your own mind, and it's just about kind of getting it back to the simplicity really of, you know, law v legislation. You know, law is law, and legislation is only given the force of law, again, by our consent, the consent of the governed, you know, and
Yep.
constitutionally. And I mean, a lot of people, Terry, think that we don't have a constitution. I mean, obviously, we've got Halsby's laws, and as it says in Halsby's laws, you know, the law is absolutely clear. There is no authority for these administrative courts in this country, and no act can be passed to legitimise them because of the constraints placed upon allegedly what would have been our crown. But like you say, that's all gone down the toilet. You know, they're all corporate entities now. You know, under the separation of powers, you know, you can't have the council tax regulate, you know, the council doing any of this. Never mind, even if they did have the authority to it under separation of powers, you can't be a billing authority, a prosecuting authority, and an enforcement authority all at the same time. But all of it at the moment,
and the court,
yeah,
don't forget, and the court,
yeah,
because they're hiring the courtroom from HMCTS.
yeah,
They're hiring the judge, or they're putting in somebody that's pretending to be a judge in
yeah,
fraud of that office,
yeah,
which is a criminal act. Then
yeah,
issuing fraudulent documentation as true, and then attempting to enforce it with its bully boys.
yeah, yeah.
And what we've got to do is say thank you, but no thank you. We did not put you in or vote you in to become what you've become, which is nothing more than an incorporated corporation of the Corporation of the United Kingdom Corporation. This is why they've called the king the head of state and the queen before her the head of state. It's there in plain sight. The head of state is the head of the corporation. It's nothing more.
Yep, absolutely. And that's why the Queen was, you know, that's why she lied in state, or was lying in state, isn't it? And a state is a, you know, a condition in a contract.
Yep.
And you know, they tell us with the language of it, don't they? I mean, for those who are watching that don't know much about constitutional law, could you just kind of, because obviously there's a lot of people that say, you know, oh, we don't have a constitution, and we don't have a written constitution, you know, say like the United States of America. But as we know that the United States of America is a foreign corporation, isn't it? Again, of means without. So it's the United States, you know, of in legalese is without America. So this is the con that's been placed, you know, and this is why we all need to kind of get back with standing as living men and women under the law on the land. I mean, don't get me even started about the law, because even that is a presumption to me. All of it is a construct. It's kind of like, it's like an equity and trust law, how you have to go, you know, it's always about, you know, you going in as the individual, you have to go humbly before the law. And I think, why? You know, no, because that's
Well,
their game. Of course, they want us to go humbly before the law. Of course, they want us to, and you know,
yep.
being meek means actually something else in true old English. Actually means strength. So you do kind of have to go, you know, be meek in that sense. But it's like, well, no, because we're up against a tyrannical corporate, you know, bunch of psychopaths really that are, you know, masquerading as, you know, they've got some form of authority, and for me that means big guns out, really, as we say up north, isn't it, Terry?
Well, it is. I mean, the thing for me is, look, I mean, this is the famous quote is nobody is above the law. That means the king,
Yeah,
the queen, government, anybody, right? There is nobody that stands above the law. And
yeah,
what does it say? We are all equal in the eyes of the law,
yeah,
supposedly. But now we've got a state where we are worse than Russia because there are more equals than others.
yeah,
And anything you now say, think, or do can line you up in prison, which is a breach of your human rights, freedom of speech. They've just lost a case only last year, year before, about free speech and free thinking. The lady that got arrested 2 streets back from a clinic who stood on the corner of a street in silent prayer, not minded, was arrested. She won £26,000 from the police.
Yeah.
So this is what they're trying to do, and they're covering up what they're doing. Now, when we go to court, they ask you to rise. Now, that's 2 reasons. One, because you fall under their duty.
Mm.
And secondly, they're raising you from the dead. And I don't want to get into either that. Again, you know, we've all done this. We've all been there. That's why you never sit where they tell you. You never stand when the judge walks in. And if he gets gobby at you, the first thing you say, are you now attempting to be above the law? Because all men are equal before the law. You are only an employed judicator. And they don't like it. You have no authority. You have no jurisdiction within this court.
Yeah. Yeah.
As it's corporate.
And we've got to kind of get to that point where, you know, you have got, you know, you've gone and done this, you know, you just don't talk the talk, you walk the walk. You know, Terry can walk into a court, and I think, is it 38 seconds your record before the judge abandons the ship? Because again, it knowledge is power, and they've had this kind of occult hidden knowledge, and that's all occult means. It just means hidden. They know the game and they're playing it. So we've got to, you know, unlearn what we have learned, you know, that brainwashing, that programming. We've not been taught how any of this works, obviously, for, you know, for obvious reasons. You know, that these courts that aren't courts are just places of business working on assumptions, presumptions, tacit acquiescence, our silence, and hearsay, which basically boils down to bullshit. That's all that it is. And it's this kind of you know, it's an illusion in our minds, isn't it? But unless we kind of hold these people accountable, then they're gonna keep doing it, aren't they?
Well, this is the thing. They've literally, like you said earlier, the 3 circles. Now, what they've done is they've merged the 3 circles. They've breached the constitution of trust between us and them, the people and the what is it? They've now changed our language that we are residents, we are constituents.
Yeah.
You know, we have 9 million things.
Yeah.
And we accept it because they've played with the language. But what we are actually is inhabitants of our county. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
We're nothing less, nothing more. It is, we are inhabitants of our county within the realm of England and Great Britain and Isles.
Yeah.
And we're nothing to do with the sea. They can't take you into an admiralty court without your consent. They can't take you into an administrative court without your consent, but they're doing it. They're classing you don't turn up as silent acquiescence, like you've already stated, and a tacit agreement. Well, a tacit agreement's not fact. It cannot be produced in law. Therefore, if it cannot be produced, it is illegal.
Yeah.
Justice Manning has said the same thing in 2022. All warrants and orders need to be signed. Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing that the lower courts can now not do.
No.
Because they're working under administrative laws.
Yeah.
Which have no authority. Now, this is the clue from Halsbury's law that now shows that the king has resigned his position as king.
Yeah.
Because what does it say? That due to the Coronation Oaths Act, the restraints placed upon the monarch cannot give these courts any authority. Any. No act of parliament, no order of a minister, nothing can make these courts have any lawful standing. None.
Yeah.
But yet, if you go around the courts now, they're all administrative. Every court's administrative.
Well, and it says, doesn't it, the clues in the title again, it's always about the language. It says it comes from a business centre.
Yep. And not only that, you're summonsed. Who the
Yeah,
hell gives them the authority to invite you in force? Because that's all a summons is. It's an invitation.
summons, yeah, of course, invitation, yeah. And these are just like, again, it's like just stripping it back, isn't it, and getting it to like simple points. And the whole thing for me is just, and I know there is a way through equity and trust to access the trust, and maybe you're at the wrong door and all this kind of, but again, to me it just seems like it's all the games. It's all their games, spiritually speaking, but we can ultimately wrap these feckers up with their own rules and let them hang themselves ultimately. Like you say, we are the inhabitants of the land, and it is about, again, and you taught me this, Terry, like, so again, it's, Rishi Sunak, all these people, you've got Sadiq Khan, and this is nothing to do with being about race or being racist. This is just that they can't hold these positions of power constitutionally, because the thing is, they're already putting that bill through, and a bill is something, of course, that needs to be paid. The de-establishment of the Christian church, because this is a Christian nation, and or was. So again, if you kind of put, Muslims into power in a Christian, you're going to get what we've got, but of course we know, like we say, it's all corporate now anyway, but it is about kind of getting things back to the way that they should be, and that's just a fact.
Well, the Constitution is very clear on this, and it has been pointed out. Now, we've got the 2002 Metric Martyrs ruling that they've now tried to bury and say it's something to do with weights and measures in a greengrocer in the city of Sunderland. It's not. It's over. Can anybody issue a fine or forfeiture without the due process of law? No, they can't.
Yeah.
So all tickets are void. All of them. Your parking tickets, speeding tickets, they cannot seize your car. They cannot do anything as to the constitutional rights of the people. But this is what we've forgotten. We've allowed this nonsense to continue.
Yeah.
And what they've done is they've been emboldened by our acquiescence to this, and just gone, okay, we can now take it another foot further on, and another foot further on, another foot further on, till we've got nothing left.
Yeah.
Now they will take everything. Let's not be shy about this. They are coming for everything.
Yeah.
We've stood there and watched our grandparents be murdered en masse by this jab. And I'm sorry, but, there's people out there now, there's doctors, there's everybody calling this stuff out.
Yeah.
Pfizer, in their own documentation, have admitted that it's not what they thought it was, and they've done it to order by the governments. Now, I don't know if this is true. I've seen it online. I've seen it on YouTube. But isn't it? This is where we've got to be careful. Now, I know a lot of people are suing the government and suing Pfizer. There's, I think, 13,000 claims in. I've just seen at the minute. There were 18,000 in. And it's rising and rising and rising. So we've got to make sure that what we're telling people and what we're doing on these channels is correct, or as correct as we can find out. Now, and the problem that we're having is that they are subverting the law, they're subverting our constitutional rights, and they're removing the evidence of these rights by buying up corporations such as Google. Look at Zuckerberg now. He knows he's going to go to prison. He's going to lose everything, he's Zuckerberg, because when Trump gets in, he's now admitted that the Biden administration told him to do X, Y, Z, and he did it.
They told me to do it.
Yeah,
that old
exactly.
I was just doing.
I was doing what I was told, sir, right?
Mm.
And it don't carry anymore. I mean, look at the police force. I mean, to say that is a complete and utter shower of Muppets is an insult to Muppets, right? Because at least a Muppet will go up and stay shut when it needs to stay shut. right?
Yeah.
Whereas these idiots come in, and I remind the police that are watching these shows and stuff that it states in the Constitution of Laws and Rights of the People that all judiciary, police officers, sheriffs, and everything will only be in place if they know and hold the law well.
Mm.
Well, the law is not a policy, pal. Sorry to bust your bubble.
Yeah.
So therefore, now you are guilty of altering our constitutional rights, which is
Yeah.
what? It's treason.
Mm.
Any kind of alter or subversion of our rights is treason. And
Yeah.
this is what they're doing. Now, we've got it documented from 2022 that the
Yeah.
Treason Act is still on the statute books, can't be taken away.
Yeah.
So all police officers now are in the criminal act of altering the constitutional rights of the people, subverting the constitutional rights of the people, and in the criminal act of high treason by committing the crime of uttering, by issuing false documentation, seizing people's vehicles, illegal. Can't do that, not to the constitutional rights. And I don't care whether you call it a conveyance, whether you call it a motor car, whether you call it this, that, the other. What it is it goes back to our ancient times, which is the modern day horse and cart. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. It's exactly the same because we drive it with horsepower and we have four wheels on it and we have it carries us and our goods. There you go. It is a modern day horse and cart only. Now, if it's a modern day horse and cart, they can't seize it.
Yeah.
If you use it to go to work, they can't seize it.
Yeah.
Because it says so in our constitutional rights. But yet, these acts and statutes to create hidden taxes and money laundering says they can.
It's like me and you, Terry, though, isn't it? Put it in simple terms. It's like, you know what, it's a racket. I'm just going to decide to start doing that. Basically, it's just been a racket for thousands of years, and it's a group of people who write something down on a piece of paper. All the mates agree with it, and then they just make it so number one, and that's it. Like you say, it's not the law. I mean, even back to the chicken thing, without Carly obsessing
Yeah, yeah.
about the chicken, but it's just a beautiful, perfect, stupid, silly, ridiculous example of that. This just needs to fucking stop, because they're saying online, like this use of language again, like you said. They're saying that they're saying it's criminal if you don't register a chicken, and it's like, for those that know, that where's the victim, where's
Yeah.
where's the harm, injury, or loss here? Can the chicken sign an affidavit as the chicken? It's like, we've got to get back to the principles of law. As much as I still think, the law itself is a construct, but let's not go there. It's like this it's got to stop, hasn't it, Terry? It's like it's that silly now. And we've got to kind of start leading the charge. It's the Manic Street Preachers song in my head. If you tolerate this, then your children will be next. They're coming for everything, and nothing's going to stop them. And again, this huge, even like the Donald Trump stuff and the Q stuff, this huge psyop. They did it in Russia, back in the day. Someone's coming to sort it out, constantly drip feeding this idea that someone's going to come and save you or do it for you. And it isn't that, is it, at all? It's us. And if we don't stop this now, and we don't get this wider, and people like Terry, the last blue ball, people like me who are helping and aiding Terry and Karen and the rest of us, we just want to get this out there so that we can stop this. It's got to stop. When's enough, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, this is what makes me laugh. It is. Look, they've already told us you will have nothing. We will take everything, and you will be happy.
Yeah.
Now, they're creating a mass inflation strategy at the minute. We've got farmers telling you straight, John Bull, they are being told to grow crops and replant and just literally run them back into the ground. Now, what's that going to do in the near to short future? It's going to create a massive food shortage.
Yeah.
And what we've got to understand in all this is what's going to happen to interest and in inflation, it goes up.
Mm-hmm.
Prices go up
Yeah.
because of the shortage. So they've got us on this evil hamster wheel that literally grows and shrinks at will, at their will, to get as much money out of you as possible.
Yeah.
Now, if we put all our taxes together and all our bits and bobs, I did this a few years ago, and I worked out that we were paying somewhere in the region of between 77 and 85 pence in the pound in some form of tax or other related thing. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I'm talking when you put in, going to the petrol, putting petrol in your car, going to the food market, paying your bills now at 5% VAT and everything else.
Yeah.
What's the point of having energy caps if they can remove them and increase them by 10% when all the energy companies are earning billions? Let's not, all of a sudden these companies now, corporations, are now earning billions from making nothing. And yet, let's not forget who owns all the infrastructure. We do.
We do, exactly. And this is what people have forgot, isn't it? It's like, hang on a minute. We own that. He who creates own. We built it. We created it. Oh, the dog's
We
off.
paid for it. Our ancestors have paid for it. It's ours by perpetuity of right. That is what it states in the Coronation Oath Act. Now, all of a sudden, nothing belongs to us. It's not a public building anymore. It's been incorporated. It's not a public council. They are voted in, laughingly, as we know, by corporate dead fictional entities and then become incorporated themselves. So now we've got councillors, we've got MPs, we've got Parliament itself is now a corporation. The office of Prime Minister is now a corporation. Parliament office is now a corporation. And they will tell you that this has been done in a mysterious way. Somebody's rung up and said you can do this. Now, as I've discreetly said before, and this is what they're doing, I created a company for nothing. And basically just to see how to get a DUNS number. And then all of a sudden, I had to apply for it or have somebody apply for it, my account or senior management, blah, blah, blah. And then I was given my DUNS number. Since saying that, have a guess what's happened? We rang the office in London for DUNS, and they now say, okay, would you like to open an account as a business? And you can call yourself council, trust, you name, whatever you want to call it. And they will just issue you a DUNS number. Because they've got caught. They got caught red-handed, hand in the cookie jar. And now they've spoke to the Duns and Bradstreets. No, we can't be having this. You're just going to have to issue DUNS numbers. But the one thing that they've forgotten, and the big chain in the link, is let's get back to basics. First off and foremost, you have to be registered to Companies House. So if you're registered Companies House, what happens? You are automatically sold to Duns and Bradstreets by Companies House, who's another corporation. It's a filing cabinet, nothing more. And then off you go to Duns and Bradstreets. They create a number for you, and they now issue you that number automatically, even though you've no contract with them, no agreement with them, and no request for their number.
Yeah.
And this is all because all the government entities all got caught. CPS is a corporate entity. I've got their DUNS number and I've got their family tree of 71 branches. That's how they describe it. Domestic cleaning services, I think you'll find they come under. Honestly, it's funny if it isn't so serious. So now we're being taken to court and put in prison by a corporation.
Yeah, wow. Exactly.
How does that work?
Well, and as we know, no corporation can bring a man or woman to court under the law of the realm of England. This is, as you would say, Terry, a subversion of the Constitution. Right there again.
Massively. It's
Yeah.
massive. It is seriously massive now.
And like you
And this
say,
is
it
why
wouldn't be so funny if it weren't so serious. Just
it's
like, come on.
tragic at the minute. Honestly, I feel it's tragic.
Yeah, it
And
is.
the only way that we can get out of this, and I don't want to look at the violent route because I'm sure nobody wants that at the moment, and I'm sure that there has to be certain changes made. I accept that to the Constitution, but we have to live and die by the sword of it, and that means that we have to look at the Constitution.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that that never is taken away from us again. That
Yeah, yeah.
Parliament is sovereign through our sovereign powers of the Constitution. It
Yeah.
states in the Constitution that is where all powers stem from, and it is the people's Constitution. It's not the government's, it's not the king's, it's ours. And they either do as they're fucking told or we sack them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're all sackable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like say, well, our courts now are just these private places of business. Like you say, they're private-led prosecutions now, aren't they? You know, we need to turn our courts back to public courts of law, you know, with judges on their oaths, trial by jury, you know, by a jury of your peers. And for those that don't know, you know, any court without a jury present is an administrative exercise, you know, and like you said, Terry, that these judges they're not on their bonds or their oath. They're just stating corporate affirmation. So what the feck is it? What the feck's going? It's just it literally is an act. It's a pantomime. It's a
Yep.
theatre, and that's all
It's a
it is.
joke. I mean, the arrest warrants that they issue, not legal because they're not signed. And it's an administrative court. It doesn't have the authority to issue any warrants. Not one.
No, no,
Therefore, it cannot issue anything. So it's there. It has now just proven the high treason of it all. By
yeah,
issuing a warrant that's not signed is high treason because they've just confirmed they have now passed something in forgery to
yeah.
deceive, betray, and steal.
Yeah, yeah. And again, you know, the trial by jury, isn't it? It's a fundamental, you know, common law kind of mechanism as a you know this of our democratic system of governance, allegedly. But again, you know, they do shitty tricks. Obviously, the jury have the power to nullify, don't they, as well? That's another thing, you know, jury
Yeah, I
nullification.
mean, the thing is, the jury's never told the true purpose of their role there,
No,
right?
no,
And it's hidden. And it states in our constitutional rights that we have to have a jury of 12. It should
yeah,
be 26 to be fair, but because of cost and size of the courts and stuff, they took it down to 12. Fair enough. It's
yeah,
12.
yeah,
But it has to be all 12 to agree to find you guilty. If one finds you not guilty,
yeah,
then it's not guilty.
yeah,
Also, under the Juries Act, you can bring your own jury
yeah,
because it's the people that know you best will know if you're able to commit that crime. Now,
yeah,
again, it's an ancient thing, but the
yeah,
people, don't forget, we lived, I mean, and we live on top of one another now, but I mean, in those days, we lived in very close proximity for defence and everything else, and to be there to fight to protect what's ours in our
yeah,
little oval communities.
yeah,
Um, and they would know because they ate with you, slept, not being awful, but, slept in the same area as you, worked at side of you for days and years and weeks and months and everything else, and would know whether you were able to commit that crime.
yeah,
But now they get 12 strangers that don't know you from Adam and
yeah,
expect them to know the law and then try and find you guilty with
yeah.
no evidence,
Well,
with a
and
lot
and
of hearsay, supposition,
yeah, exactly.
circumstance, And that is all it is. There's actually no factual evidence in that room in the court.
Because they can't try a fact in a fiction, you know, because
No,
it's they don't want facts in fiction. They can't deal with a fact. And as the, you know, a fact is a fact, and you can't argue a fact. And then another shitty trick that they do, of course, isn't it, Terry? That you know, you might think you're in front of a trial by jury, but they switch it to what's called a jury trial. So it might look like a trial by jury, but it isn't one. And again,
it's
it
not.
is this getting
It's
back
just
to
it's people they've set up to sit there
yeah,
that's
yeah,
going to
exactly,
find you guilty, because
yeah,
I mean it states in the Constitution that they have to be free thinking, free from the judge, and
free
free from the
thinking,
judges, and free from the what is it? It states that in the Constitution of law.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
if it's not there, then the trial is automatically biased,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
can't have a biased law, a biased trial. It's
No,
like these emergency powers that the government think it has. It doesn't have the emergency powers. It
no,
cannot. It cannot produce these powers. It hasn't got the authority for one.
no. And if when we take this, you know, and like you said, we only ever delegated powers to
Yeah.
our representatives in you know business in you know the business of the state. And actually when we go back to trial by jury, when we understand you know constitutional rights, it places the people in authority over the legislature. It's the people that have the power, and we always did, like you say, we just delegated it, and look what they've done. You know, it's treason against the nation. We can't put it any more. We can't put it milder than that.
No, I mean, and it's all the tricks, and this is why I'm calling now for everybody to sue each judge, to sue every police officer within their county and other
Yeah,
counties.
yeah,
So we
yeah,
now put in a complaint. Okay, they won't give you the name. So what? We now just put a claim in against every officer for committing treason, fraud, deception, impersonation of a police constable. Because they
yeah.
can't be police constables.
No,
They've got no oath. They're under an attestation. They tell you they're working for the king. We've got it on video.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
working for the king. Well, I'm sorry, guys, but he works for us, or
yeah, yeah.
supposed to,
I did. Yeah,
or did. Now he's retired.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
gone completely nuts. And this is what he's become. If you look at, I think it's in the London Gazette on his thing, he's become a liege lord, which basically means that he's now got everybody to swear an oath to him, or a kind of oath, which is an attestation, affirmation. And that's how they've changed it. So if the king's no longer the king, and he's now, because he's now not the king, they can do these administrative courts.
Mhm.
So let's face it, they're all over. They never were before. All of a sudden, everything's been changed to an administrative court.
Yeah,
Therefore, the king cannot claim to be the king. He stated in open public communication he surrendered all his authority to his parliament, which has sworn an affirmation to him
yeah,
as
yeah,
head of state
yeah. Of a
and
corporate,
as a liege lord,
yeah,
which is men of oath to him.
yeah,
So
yeah,
he now has to pay for all of the police forces out of his own personal pocket. He has to pay for the army, the navy, all of that. We don't have to pay for anything anymore.
yeah, yeah,
No taxes,
yeah. Well,
none.
boom.
Boom. You know, I mean, it's there, and it's there in front of us. Only if we want to look at it. Now,
Yeah,
if these, if he wants the office of king, then I'm sorry, but you know, you've resigned from it.
yeah, yeah. And that's it, innit? A king is a public servant. He's the highest public servant. So hang on a minute. Who is he actually serving now? And we're pretty damn sure we know that it's not us. You know, and
No,
again, you
it's
know,
not.
what is the Constitution primarily for? It's to guard against our own administrative government itself becoming criminal in nature. And that's what we've got, a tyrannical criminal. And the irony of them coming for us and telling us we're criminals if we keep a chicken. I mean, this is how farcical, and like you say, it would be funnier if it wasn't so
True.
immediate and serious, you know. I mean, the ridiculousness of it. I'm sure me, Terry, that they just get this ridiculous in some kind of strange attempt to actually try and wake the people up to this. I don't know, you know,
Well,
in
I
this.
mean, it could be, but to me, it's this. To me, is look.
Yeah.
To me, it is a trick of theirs to see, right, we're going to take over the fact now. We swallowed the fact we can't smoke indoors, right? They give us a load of nonsense about it causes second-hand cancer and all the rest of it. Now, actually,
Oil safety.
um,
Oil safety.
yeah, but actually, smoke or a little bit of smoke does your
Yeah.
body world of good
Yeah, and we've just had
because
that
it,
revealed, haven't we now? Like
yeah,
that's coming out. So the actually in
yeah,
the tobacco is killing the nanotech in the
yeah,
bodies allegedly. And
and
it's the
it always
chemicals
has
that
been. I mean,
is the
look.
killer. Mm,
I mean, the thing you've got to remember on is this:
yeah.
is for thousands of years our body has been used to smoke. What did we burn? We burnt logs. We burnt everything. We lived in huts. Yeah, you know what I mean. So we did everything,
Yeah.
and tobacco is only a plant, right? It's a herb.
Yeah.
Disgusting one in my opinion, but hey, I'm biased. I'm an ex-smoker, so I now call it disgusting. Those who
Yeah.
smoke and love it, crack on, all good to you. But it is not for anybody else to tell me what I can and cannot do.
Yeah,
And I'm
exactly.
sorry, but I am fundamentally objecting to that. Now,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not a big lover of smoking internally. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. But it's not up to me. There should be smoking areas allowed. Back to thing. And all this is, and now we've got it where you can't smoking outside. Off you go. Enough now. You're not going to come and tell me what I can and cannot do
Yeah.
by a
Yeah.
legislation because you've agreed it with your Muppets in my parliament. No,
Yeah.
we're telling you no. And all this is, I think, is let's
Yeah.
see how far we can push these Muppets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
see how far we can get to them now before they stand up and say no. And because they've got us again spinning 27, 37 fucking plates in the air and 50 plates in the air, and we're having to run round and run round and run round, we're not watching what these buggers are doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Like
mean? So
yeah, it's
we
just
have
so
to now just say no.
yeah.
All acts and statutes are actually, if we want to be technical about it, are actually dissolved, void, nullified from 1973. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
we can go back earlier if we wish, but I don't think there's any real need to, because
Mhm.
that's when we've got them banged to rights. We've got the documentation to it. They committed treason in 1973. Every parliament since 1973 has took part in that treason.
Yeah.
Therefore, they're all guilty of it.
And what is that, Terry? Just to clarify for
First in
people.
January 1973, Edward Heath took us into the EEC, and therefore, as part of that, he had to surrender the sovereignty of the people. Well, unfortunately, the government worked for the people. They are not the boss of the people
Yeah.
and couldn't surrender squat diddly.
Yeah, something's gone wrong there, hasn't it? Exactly.
Yes.
Well, hang on a minute. You're only our representatives. We created government, so we own it, not the other way around. And like you say, even with our utilities, all the things that they've sold off, this called, this corporatocracy, hang on. We're now having to pay you for things that we own. This is ours. Like, hang on. Ah,
Yep.
no,
Yeah.
it's
And this is the whole
backstage.
thing. But we've stood for it. Oh, it's going to create jobs. It's going to do this. It's going to pay into our economy more. We're not going to be responsible for all the pay. So what's happened? These companies that were 50, 60 million in debt are now billions in debt. And who's going to pick up the tab when they collapse? Oh, that'll be me and you, the taxpayer.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
So why don't we take back what they've had out of and and basically stolen out of our companies by mismanagement, by what overpaying? I mean, look at British Gas now. He's had his wages doubled from 4 million to 8.
It's just It's like how
Excuse me?
much more, isn't it? It's just like how much more. Enough is like literally enough. And it, like I've said, it's like with the smoking thing, Terry. I'm not smoking. Actually, I moaned and whinged when they took smoking out the pubs. But actually, when they did, my hair didn't stink, the clothes didn't stink, and I, like I say, I'm no smoker, but I will defend your right to smoke. And certainly outside within designated smoking areas, then everybody's happy. There is a common sense element to it, as much as common sense seems to have completely left this land and this realm, unfortunately. But it is time to bring it back, and that's what you're doing. That's what we're doing. It's just as simple as that, isn't it?
It is. I mean,
Oh.
the point that we've got to make on this, and I think this is it's,
Mm.
look, guys, we're the authority, so let's start removing it. We had a massive thing the other year. I do not consent. Well, I now reckon they've had enough warning.
Yeah,
I now reckon they know the fact that we are so disgruntled with the government, with the two main parties, shall we say, that now we've just got no option and are left with no option but to remove consent, or we are headed into a civil war
yeah,
that's gonna just cause an absolute devastation. People are angry, and I get it. And people are working so hard and still can't pay their bills and
yeah,
still can't feed their kids. There's no holidays. There's no anything now. There's no nothing. There's no glow. There's no sunshine in the morning. It's all shit. What do I do to put food on table? How many
yeah,
more hours can I work
yeah.
to be able
It's
to
like
provide?
It's like the hamster wheel of debt, as I call it. Like you said it earlier, has turned into the evil hamster wheel of debt now. So we kind of just got on with stuff, and we paid our taxes and we paid the fines. I mean, the beauty of what's happened in the last 4 to 5 years now, whatever it is this awareness that's come. And like I always say, it's the arrogance that is their undoing now, because they were arrogant enough. This you'll own nothing, you'll be happy, you'll be in your 15-minute cities, you will eat zibugs, etc. and so on. It's like their arrogance is that they can achieve it. And when we do start to begin to understand our nature, that we are men and women in the image of God and not their God. I'm talking about our God. This should everything should always be for the betterment of the people, isn't it? And it is about enforcement, isn't it? So we've got to enforce it as the people, with this knowledge and this awareness. But that's the next element of it, isn't it, Terry? Like, that's what we want to do. We want to make these people, we've got to hold them accountable. Because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? Trump ain't going to do it for you. Bad news, everybody. Like, I'll find the name of that psyop I've got that they did in Russia. They're doing exactly the same thing with that, in my opinion. I know, and I
It
upset
is
people
all
with
Jim.
that.
I mean, to be fair, look, there is certain things being done behind the scenes,
Oh
but
yeah,
do I think there's the white hats that are going to come in, and the Marines are going to come in, and the armed forces are going to come in and just wash all this vileness away? No, it's not going to happen. The only
yeah.
time that does is me and you. And I don't mean you and me personally. I mean me, you,
And it is
and
me and
the
you.
nation. We have to be able to look ourselves in the face and
Yeah,
say, enough. I am
yeah,
now removing consent. These courts are criminal. The
yeah,
judges are criminal. The police are criminal because they're not telling us that they're incorporated. So that's fraud by omission,
yeah.
because a corporation has no legal standing over you, under you, above you, anywhere near you. And it is not acting in law, it's acting under policy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's just the key in it. It's the key to that kingdom. And I always say, there's all kinds of different forms of law, the common law to equity and trust. I mean, the Judicature Act, merged those two together. But again, they took away our land with the settlement acts and a whole load of other acts, etc. They've taken everything from us, and now they're coming to finish the job. So again, we've got to kind of hold these people accountable. We've got to take them down. And that is about doing class action suits, isn't it, Terry? Because the thing is,
Yeah.
they're criminal in their activities now. And like you say, ignorance is no defense of the law. So
No.
we've got to, make them like, they are liable in their, their personal and private capacity. And that's what you want to do and what we want to do now, isn't it? We've got to make examples of them so
Yeah.
that the are smashing in people's doors, against, which is completely against the law for a civil matter. It's an
Well,
act
you
of
can't. I mean, look, there's no judge that can take it. States in the Constitution, right? There is no way a judge can order the repossession of a man's property without the jury of 12, right? To
yeah,
allow it, right?
yeah,
It says it in the Constitution. It says it in the law book. You cannot go after them for their standing there or their property. It's that simple. It comes under the Settlement Act 1700. Now,
yeah,
this is what they want to try and con you with, that these laws no longer exist, but they can't be taken from us. You know what I
yeah,
mean? They're putting us in administrative courts. All you need to do is walk in, I do not consent. They are
yeah,
now not allowing people to talk in these courts because we are coming. Are you Mr. So and so? Don't answer questions. Is this court a court of record? We'll adjourn this case, and they're throwing you out of court with force because they're
yeah.
getting the security guards to turn up. No, so we go, no, 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 no. You've invited me here,
Mhm.
so I'm ensuring that there's no trust fraud going
Yeah,
because
yeah,
all you're after is taking and accessing my trust. No.
yeah,
So I will not give consent to this court. In actual fact, I remove all consent. I will
yeah,
not stand as a surety for
yeah,
this case. Therefore, you will now show me your oath and bond. And if you
yeah,
haven't got them, you're in treason by subverting my constitutional rights. Where is the jury?
exactly.
Why
Boom.
is a corporation bringing a man to court?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this is not a court of law. It's not a court of anything. It has
no.
no jurisdiction and can do fuck all.
Yeah, and again, this is this usufruct system that we've been labouring under, and labour is the word, the right to use the profits belonging to another. That is the system. It's parasitical in its essence, like without a shadow of a doubt. And the return to the land of becoming, the standing on the land as a man and a woman, be that constitutionally or whether you're using equity and trust, obviously we're talking about the constitution today. It is about getting back to the land, and that is a spiritual thing as well, because that's why they use scripture and the King James Bible, the first technical legal document is what it is, and we
Yeah.
can utilize that again against them. God has no respect for persons. We know thyself. We've just forgotten who we are. We've forgotten how this works. They've dumbed us down to such an entirety. I mean, the level of brainwashing, this kind of mass hypnosis, this mass formation hypnosis that's going on out there. I still get like, I shudder. I get shocked and shuddered still to still think that people are still peddling that narrative. When I see it on occasion, I think, wow. But like you said, Terry, in the beginning, in a positive sense, there are, there's doctors, there's so many people speaking out now that, that, like I say, that beast is flapping about, and all they've got is intimidation, fear, and force, like they've always had with their slaves. Do you want to be a man or a woman, or do you want to be a person or a corporation and or debt slave in that system? And it's just a simple question of what side you're going to pick, because it's time to pick a side and it's time to grow a pair, isn't it, really?
It's getting that way. The police officers the police is in serious trouble because they're leaving in droves. They're leaving en masse.
Yeah.
I think some of the officers knows what's coming. And a lot of these officers, unfortunately, are also the wrong type to be police officers.
Yeah.
They're literally yes men, no men, three bag full men. And
Yeah.
that's all they are. And what
Yeah.
we've got to understand that if the police aren't police anymore, and they have no legal standing anymore, because
Yeah.
people have been getting the Clearfield Doctrine wrong. What they've said is if basically if the government becomes incorporated, it sinks to the level of a standard corporation. Well, yes, in parcel that is true. But the key bit that they've missed out is if they use private bank script. So what's our government and our courts and everybody using?
Private bank script.
Private bank script. It has no. It's debt based script.
Yeah, yeah.
It's produced for debt. It says, I promise to pay the bearer £10. Well,
Yeah,
£10 of what? Because I'll take mine in silver, please, or
yeah,
gold. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Where it has nothing to do with it. The law's, very clear that if you pay off anything with a promissory note that you've made up, it has to be treated as cash. Lord
yeah,
Denning, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Said that, hang on, since 1931, we've been working on promissory notes. Therefore, all promissory notes must be treated as cash. There's
But they
case
don't want
laws and laws and laws and laws on it. You know what
they
I mean?
don't they don't want the plebs and the pursers and the serfs knowing that though, do they, Terry? I mean,
No.
we get some interesting correspondence back, don't they, telling us that the Bills of Exchange Act is archaic and it doesn't apply anymore. I mean, some of the responses, like especially to superior statutes like the Bill of Rights, and like we should say, the void orders that we're working on with the council, and also what this applies to just for people that are viewing is speeding, parking, all this stuff that they're coming at us with, and the utilities that our utilities are prepaid 5 years in advance. So this is why they call it double dipping. We're repaying, we're paying again. Like of course we don't have the ability to pay, but we can discharge. The actual statement of account, because you never really get a true bill. On occasion you'll get them with the gyro, it used to be called a gyro check, they call it a gyro
Mm.
credit slip now. But the actual statement is the negotiable instrument itself, and we should just be discharging them as beneficiaries and creditors. But again, that's all about remembering and knowing who we are. And we've got to take that back. Not that we ever gave it away, but like you say, it's just that complete brainwashing of us all, and purposely done, obviously through schooling, etc., and the rest. And we've got to get this out because it's the key to it. It's just as simple as that.
Well, this is it. I mean, the thing that we've got to always remember this is when you walk into the court, remember this little phrase: are you attempting to subvert my constitutional rights? It's as simple as that. Are you thou in the act of committing in breach of the 1980 Supreme Court Act by diminishing superior case law outside of the law, outside of this court?
Yeah,
Because case law is proven law.
yeah,
That's why I use proven law, because it goes back to the 17s, 16s, 1300s in some aspects. That's then being brought up into the 50s, 60s, 20s, 80s, 90s. You know what I mean? But the beauty of that is, well, if it was good enough for 1990 and 1920s and 1930s, well, it's now good enough for years because they've taken it from 300 years ago.
yeah.
And this is what they don't want us to know. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I suppose we should talk about, this is we want to just get this out there, don't we? And the work that we're doing, because numbers is obviously a huge part of it. Awareness is key and numbers is key. We can do so much, but we need people's help, don't we? We need people's support. We need people to share this video. We need people to
Look,
join. We've got a
it's not our
Telegram group.
support. Look, yeah, I get it. But what it is they've got to support each other. You know what I mean? It's a simple case of
We can
if you're
help.
not going to support your neighbour, don't
Yeah,
expect to support you. Now, I
yeah,
don't care what religion, background, anything, whether you've had a disagreement over a fence or anything else. This is bigger than that, guys. This is the fact now that
yeah,
if you do not stand now together, you are lost and your children are lost.
yeah,
We have just lived through the biggest extermination by the government and wealth grab
yeah,
that has happened in hundreds of years.
yeah,
Hundreds of years, right? They tried this in 1835. It went horrible for them then. And this is what I want to try and avoid, but I don't think they're going to allow it to be avoided. It's going to come where the people will rise en masse, and it has to do. There's
yeah,
too much going off. There's too much being proven.
yeah,
You look at the Diddy thing in America. You know what I mean? It's becoming more and more insipid and evil as every
Yeah,
day passes.
yeah.
We look at Winey Epstein and all the politicians that are involved in that. We look at our side of the pond. Who's been involved in all this, that, and the other with this side? There's judges, there's senior police officers, there's ex-ministers, ministers. The list goes on forever and ever.
Yeah.
But yet, if we fiddled our accounts, our company, what is it? What are they called? It's that long since I've had one, Kelly.
Oh, like you you
You know,
account.
like like get a boat. It's not a thing, is it? It's like a company account where you
Yeah.
claim for stuff and you go out and spend stuff and claim it back.
Oh, yeah, expenses.
Expenses,
Yeah.
expense account. So if we did that, we'd be out on us
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
The police would be called. The
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
it being? But yet, when it happens in Parliament or your council, nobody's informed.
Yeah. And it just
Or
goes
the
to show
police.
how high this goes, doesn't it,
Yeah.
really? Because you can't get past the, like the minions in the police, your minions in the council, but at the top of that pyramid, they know exactly what they're doing. This
Yes.
it's been infiltrated to such a degree, and people can't begin to fathom it, but they need to start doing because we need to start moving.
Well, the point is, if it when are you gonna when I mean the question I always ask these people when I do these talks and stuff is this: when are you gonna start to take notice? When are you gonna wake up enough to realise your kids are next and your
Yeah.
grandkids? Because it's only by the grace of God go I
Yeah.
and my family. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we've got to start looking after each other's families. Again, I don't care what colour, race, fucking creed. You could be a Martian for all I give a shit, right?
Yeah.
If you're willing to stand up with the people, then
We look,
you're all right in my book. You know what I mean?
me
It's
too.
these traitors that come in and try and break up and put awful rumours about the gatekeepers, they're this, they're that, the other. You know what this movement's like. And everybody expects the movement to be free. Well, no, it's called the freedom movement because we want free movement. We want free speech. We want free everything. It is
Yeah.
ours. We
Yeah.
bought it lock, stock, and barrel. We've inherited it from our grandparents, who inherited it from their grandparents, who inherited it from their grandparents. Through all the tax, blood, sweat, and tears we have given to this country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say whether we built on a lie. We probably are because all history is a lie. History
Yeah.
is told by the winner, and they
Yeah.
pervert it to make themselves look better.
Yeah, it's all a lie, isn't it? That's the I mean that's the fruity thing. If you watch some of my other videos, like the work we're doing with Steve and with Neil, the history of this land, and it is about the land. Like you say, I will stand, I don't care whether you're black, white, yellow, pink, look like Mr. Blobby. I've no interest in that. I am not a racist, right? But this is about, keeping Great Britain British. It's just as simple as that. Like Great Britain literally translates to people of the covenant. It doesn't matter what colour you are, but we've got to keep this land British. We've got to get back to those constitutional rights. We've got to get back to the land. I mean, even, talking again about scripture and it being the first technical legal document, it's all in there. It is love thy neighbour as thyself. We do it, we don't want to get violent. We're not inciting violence in any way, by the way. And, this is not legal or financial advice, but it's like, we've got to get back to that. It just makes complete sense, like, to kings and queens of old that were for the people, by the, looking after the people as
Yeah,
public servants, as servants to people, because they're picking off the lower hanging fruit. They're going for the disabled. I mean, I interviewed, David interviewed me from SPLS Pro, and they're doing some amazing work with the DWP and helping people. It's all got to go. Like, it's just, I can't stand it. Like, it bothers my soul. And it, like saying
well,
scripture,
again,
it's love
you
is the
mentioned the
king.
DWP. You mentioned the DWP there.
Yeah.
Now, I'm helping somebody at the minute with DWP. They've sent a document saying, all right, well, we can't take your council tax off you, stoppages off you anymore because it's not right. So I put in then a claim, and it's gone right up to ICE, and I've sent them the documentation that says here it is. There you go. You can't enforce this action. You can't stop this money. It says so here and
Yeah.
here, and it's against the 1992 Administrations Act. There you go. It also falls under the 1888 Local Governments Act. Section 79, all duties and liabilities shall be and become the duties and liabilities of the Incorporated Council of the such county. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But what they're doing now is they're redoing it with DWP. They're now trying to pay for council tax and stop money from people's benefits. Well, you can't do that. It's illegal for a start off. And we've put one complaint in. We've wrote to the DWP and said, no, we've got a complaint in. You can't do this. You know, there's no thing. The woman this morning, she's looked up a thing and they've stopped her money again for for council tax. So it's they just keep coming and praying and praying and praying.
Yeah.
And it's just so far out. It's ridiculous. And who's to, you know what I mean? That's what gets me, is they're not working in a court of law. They're not working in anywhere. They literally buy in the courts themselves. They become judge, jury, executioner.
Yeah.
And have no authority.
Yeah, to do it in the first place. I know, and like Kevin was saying with the DWP, you know, they're getting people to assess you over the phone for complex medical conditions. You have no medical training whatsoever. So, you know, even just in simple terms, how, you know, if you've been under a specialist consultant for, say, for 5 years, well, you need someone at that same level, you know, even if it's independent of your consultant, to be able to sign that off. I mean, we know they don't sign anything, you know, that said, but you know, it's like, well, straight off, no. And very cleverly, you know, you know, the work that they're doing over there is amazing. The work that you do and we do, you know, it's just creating more and more awareness of giving, you know, power back to the people that, like I say, we always had it. We've just bloody forgot.
Well, they've just done it. They've just taken everything away from us and dumbed us into the fact that a lot of legislation now, an act and statute, is law.
I know, and they use it all the time, and it drives me bloody nuts, and I'm sure it does you. Whenever I catch, you know, whatever these Muppets are up to, and they're going, it's law. It's like, oh my God, it is not. Stop. You know, it's even like say
they claim, and this is what makes me laugh, is they claim now that they put common law into legislation. Well, I'm sorry, but you can't, because one's for the dead and one's for the living. Common laws for the living. Acts and statutes are for corporations, corporate entities. And we all know what corporation means. Dead don't speak. When you break it down in Semtex, you know, I mean, it's there in front of us. But because of the
Roman systems, and it's all Roman systems, because we would have gone like the Irish went under Brecon law. They regulated, and they regulated themselves. Same with the Scottish, you know, it was like the Scottish right law. They regulated themselves. We didn't need common means to obligate to burden, but we don't need any of the systems. I mean, some people do, and that's that, you know, they're just like, well, let them
they're going to stay there no matter what.
Exactly. Yeah. But we don't. Go away. Enough. See you later. And we, you know, I'm not calling myself a, you know, you a king or me a queen, Terry, but, you know, people who are ready to take that kind of responsibility, and also take responsibility for, like you say, for our neighbours. Love thy neighbour as thyself is the kingly law, because if you're loving your neighbour as thyself, we don't have need for any other rule, you know, because you're treating people, you know, as, you know, unless, like you say, there's harm, injury or loss or what have you, you know, and that's what it's got to get back to. And the people like us that can, you know, we've all got to start leading by example, and help the vulnerable. You know, it's our duty to help the disabled, the elderly, you know, the people who can't battle this, you know, beast for themselves, and like you say, you know, like lead by example as you're doing.
But again, you know, we can only do so much. I mean, it's like I keep saying to people, right? And it is sort of grating me a little bit. People go, yeah, you're after conning, you're after doing it. All you're doing is you're setting up that. We're not setting up anything. All we're trying to do is help you, help yourself, and get out there and fight this in the right manner. So you protect yourself, you protect your family, and you have the evidence in law to say no.
Yeah.
Go
And
away.
do you want to talk a little bit about what we kind of actually up to and doing? And of course, we've got the public Telegram channel that people can join, and I'll put the link below so you can find it. I mean, we're Terry's Angels at the moment. There's me, a lovely lady called Karen, and a few other ladies that help Terry kind of do what Terry needs to do, and we work as a team. So if you want to kind of find out more about what we do, you know, come and join the Telegram channel. And we do the workshops as well. At the moment, we're focusing on the council tax void order because, again, you know, just for those that, you know, are unaware, again, any order that has come from one of these pseudo administrative courts, you know, these are de facto courts, which basically means, you know, presumption, assumption, tacit, blah blah blah, nonsense, as opposed to what, you know, what de jure is, you know, which is you know, defined by actual law, you know, as a matter of law, you know. And again, there's that big distinction. So we're starting with the council tax, and we're going to enforce them with the N244 forms, Terry, isn't it? So do you want to kind of tell people a
Yeah.
little bit more about that, so if if you can get a community group together, then we can, you know, we can organize these workshops. Terry can either come and do a talk, and then the angels will come and do the workshop and show you in real time how to complete these void orders, and how we can. And what we're saying is, like, you know, it's you know, they're working outside of the delegated powers. They are ab initio. It is void. It is ultra vires, and the rest of it, isn't it? And that's how we're working.
And you see, we're keeping under lawful. We are keeping to the law, to case law, to whatever else. Now, I try and do is I try and educate people as to the law, the constitution, and to use certain legislations and acts that work for us and against them, and then we back that up in law. And this is what the Terry's talks do. I come down, I do. Sometimes it's 4 hours, 5 hours. People just seem to love to listen to me talk for some strange reason. And then what we try and do is get the angels back either a week later with myself. We then show you how to fill in the void orders. We show you how to fill in the N24 forms. We're now starting to fill in the N643, I think it is, and the S11, S treble one, which is now to suit the judges in their personal and private capacity. Now, I know what people are going to say. Yeah, but we're going back to their courts. Yeah, but the fact is, if we do this en masse, and then we say, and now we remove consent from you, from these people, as they have now been charged with this. Therefore, they have to be done away with. There is no option. We put it to the Royal Courts of Justice through to the Privy Council, and we send it there. And we just say, we no longer consent. We remove all consent. We send it to the House of Parliament. All consent has now been removed. We no longer will work with you. All acts and statutes are now null and void and held in error since 1973. You committed treason. You knew you committed treason against the people and the nation. Therefore, you then in 1975 decided to have an election to go into the EEC in fraud, because you never told us what it meant. You never laid it out that we would surrender our sovereignty.
Exactly.
And we never agreed to it. So it's fraud by omission.
Yeah, yeah.
And therefore, since 1973, everything is null and void.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Exactly. And
so that's again, where we can take it.
Yeah. And if people, like I say, if they want to know more, obviously stay tuned to the channel. But I will put the public link to the Telegram, which is where we announce most things, and the email to contact us if you do want to book Terry to come and do a talk and or do the workshops and find out more about it and what it is that we're doing. But like we've said, if we don't do it now, I mean, I think they're trying to ban making, you know, having a fire in your home by 2030. They're coming for the food. They want you to register if you've got a garden next. I don't know whether that one's kind of come through yet, but that's the next one. So you've got, I mean, literally, if we don't stop it now, we will be in 15-minute cities, and we will, it'll be a complete dystopia. And that's not me being dramatic. We all know what the plan is. They tell us it's written in their own literature. So this is the Fourth Reich, or the Fourth Industrial Revolution. This is transhumanism. They want paedophilia in plain sight. They want to turn girls into boys and boys into girls. I mean, apparently a school, allegedly, whether this is true or not, but they're putting out cat litter trays for children now. It's mental illness out there on a woke scale, and it is about speaking out, but it's also now about time to walk the walk, and as well as talk the talk. Do keep talking, do keep speaking out, but it's time to hold them accountable. And come and find us to find out how. You now know the why. Come and find out the how. So I always say the why is the most important, but it's the question that drives us. But now it is the how is definitely as important, and the time is now.
Certainly, definitely. If we don't pick up the mantle now, we're never gonna. It's as simple as that. And it's time to get out. Just take your community with you. And this is what the options are going to be, guys. Is get out of the kitchen, because it's going to get awfully warm in here unless we do it peacefully, lawfully, and remove ourselves from this nonsense and stop them doing what they're doing. How does a politician earn that kind of money and then take all the freebies? Loans, private jets, holidays, for what? Exactly. It's corruption at its finest. I don't care what the politicians say.
Yeah.
If you're working and somebody says, "Oh, there's a couple of bottles of scotch, but I want it at this price," you know what I mean? What's the difference? What is the difference? The only problem is it's us that lose every time.
Yeah.
They can only work for the betterment of us, but they're all now working for the betterment of themselves. Every politician, as far as I can see, is corrupt in one way or another. They've all been corrupted. They don't work for us anymore. They work for them corporate selves.
Yeah. And that's it, isn't it? The MPs are literally registered as limited companies. Hence, I always use an example. Tony Blair can lie about weapons of mass destruction and whatever he wanted to do, commit mass genocide and walk free. Now, why is that? Because it was Tony Blair, the limited company, that did those deeds, not Tony Blair, the man. And they know that distinction. They know how to work their own nonsense and system. And, as I like to say, game's up, mother. Because it is.
Well, like I said, they filled in the UCC Form 1. And what they've done is they've privately registered themselves and then taken themselves out of the system.
Yeah.
So they're now not responsible. They're not even in our system. They're not even in their own system.
Yeah. UCC 1 filing, because that's another angle that we're coming at things with as well. But again, we won't overload people just yet. But
look, there's a load of things out there, guys, that you all need to know. And the fact is, the best way to do it is get 40, 50 of you, 60 of you together. We can come down in a day, and you can have 4 hours of me on the morning and then 4 hours of me and the girls in the afternoon. And it literally, guys, honestly, I find it quite frustrating and draining, but everybody that's come has found it absolutely brilliant. We've had nothing but praise for it, and people are getting the understanding of what's happening, and they're starting to wake up to it. They're starting to realize that we're in a shit show here, and it is only us that can stop it. And by removing consent completely, shuts them down. They went into a blind panic when everybody was writing "I do not consent" on their ballot sheets.
Yeah.
Because that brings them into constitutional shit show. And that's what we all should have done. I do not consent, because if there'd been more for "I do not consent" than any other party, who wins? The "I do not consent."
Yeah. And is, you're saying like, people like to listen to you because they do, because, I do. It's not only kind of a good rally call, but it's kept quite simple. It cuts the wheat from the chaff of things. It removes, as I said, the obfuscation of the mind. It kind of becomes we can do the complicated bits, but it kind of it labors on simple points. It's like what you've done is just the right words in the right order at the right time, but with what's been missing, which is that enforcement element to make them responsible and liable for their actions. Because when you come for their houses and their cars and things like that, they're going to start thinking twice about doing it, aren't they?
And pension, well, it's
They'll
pensions,
work it
their
even
everything,
harder.
all their assets. It's all their
Exactly.
assets, and this is why we've got to do it en masse, because they're
Yeah.
not just depriving me; they're depriving you. They're depriving every person within that realm of the community, because they're depriving of us law. They're literally depriving us of our money, our assets that we should be living free from. Now we
Yeah.
are the only being in existence that I know pays
Yeah.
to wake up on a morning, that
Yeah.
pays to go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. We are, and that's the
And our
ridiculous.
money's not ours.
No.
Because as soon as you put it in the bank, it's theirs.
Yeah, it's a gift. We gift it to them. And that's another thing people should be aware of, these public bank accounts that you think's yours, even if your money's insured money, we use that term loosely, and insurance is a scam. So when those banks go down, so will everything else. And I think sometimes people perhaps do need to get hit where it hurts. And if that isn't what's happening already, then it's gonna take another dip yet. But people need to say, it's like what you said, Terry, back in say like the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, you always had enough money to kind of get suited and booted, go on holiday, things. So you didn't notice it as much, but now they are turning the screw, turning the screw, turning the screw to the point where people are working 60, 70-hour weeks, working, it's got to stop, because it's all deception, it's all lies, it's all deceit, it's all trickery, and it's all an illusion in our minds until we take it back and go back to what is
Correct.
fact rather than, fiction.
What we've got to understand is this, for me, is they create everything that is evil. They've created inflation. They've
Yeah,
created parking fines. They've created taxes. They've created this, that, and the other. Now, it was only the very wealthy and the big companies that paid taxes.
in
Now, the reason we've got so many multi-billionaires and multi-millionaires is
yeah,
very simple, because their corporate tax now is not what it should be. The
no,
burden has been put on us.
yeah, yeah.
So why should a billionaire pay less in tax than me and you?
Well, we know why, but yeah,
Well, we know
exactly.
why, but they grow
But
their
it's all that.
millions and billions,
It's
while
George
we
Carlin. Yeah.
while we struggle to
Mm,
pay and keep our heads above water. But they've
yeah,
got no absolute. They don't even miss a heartbeat to take everything that we've worked for. Even
yeah,
they don't owe it. They're
yeah,
not
yeah,
allowed to charge us interest. They're not allowed to charge us this. They don't allow. They're not even allowed to make a register on company's house or on the land registry, because they've sold the deed of assignment. They've sold the mortgage,
yeah,
or
yeah,
both,
yeah,
without
yeah,
your consent.
yeah.
So a mortgage is a lie.
It's all an illusion. The whole thing, the
The
whole
bank
system.
works on nothing more than ones and zeros to
Yeah,
create from nothing. It's all
yeah,
computer virused. It is just a figment of their imagination that they've now made us drink the Kool-Aid of. Oh, look
yeah.
at all these ones and look at all this money I've got in my account. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not even real.
Nope. None of it's real. That's the hilarious point. None of it.
Yeah,
Um,
and this,
and
I mean, look, the clear way to understand this is, what is America just about to do? It's dropping the debt currency and going gold back currency.
mm,
Why? Because everybody's caught on in America. They're doing it over there. They're months and they're probably a year in front of us,
yeah, 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 yeah,
and
yeah.
they've all
And
been getting caught. They're all getting caught now.
yeah, yeah,
Hollywood is nothing more than a cesspit
yeah,
of
exactly.
paedophiles, rapists, and God knows whatever.
And it's all
You,
coming out, they're like George Carlin said, they're big club and you're not in it. Well, we don't want to be in it. It's
no,
just like saying, I mean, it's absolute perversion, inversion, and subversion, isn't
yeah,
it?
of everything that we
Everything.
hold dear. So
Yeah,
we've got to be aware of what we're up to. We've got to
yeah,
be aware that by us coming out and saying to the police, get in your car and fuck off. There's no consent here, mate. There's no consent here.
we
Remove
don't actually
yourself
say,
out of our area. You
yeah,
work in the realm of fiction.
yeah,
You're not here, you've no authority, and you're working for the king. Well, he works for us and he's retired. His resignation has been accepted.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, and on that note, Terry, because
Thank you very much. That's
we've
an hour and
nattered
a half
away
that's
for a
gone
good
by
hour.
in a blink of an eye.
I know I could talk about this stuff and rant away all day. Absolutely, well, we do, don't we? We literally do behind the scenes, So again, we need to support each other. Please come and support us. We are doing some great work, and all we ask is to cover our expenses together. This isn't about making money. This isn't about profit. We don't want to turn into the thing we fight in a Nietzsche-esque way. Be careful when you fight the monsters. We don't want to become our own cabal. This isn't information that we're hoarding. This is information that is fact that just needs to get out there. And we do that, like, hopefully with one another in love and authenticity and the rest of it, and hold the line, people, as I say. So yeah, well, we'll definitely get you back on, Terry, for part two, because people do love to hear you chat, because I always do. It's just like I say, it's just so soul affirming, isn't it? And it is like gives you strength. It gives you that inner strength. And like I say, I'll put our links below if you want to contact us, email us, if you can get a community group together. What me and Karen are doing as well is we are, if you feel like one or two or three of you, but you feel like you're in an area and you haven't got a community group, we are kind of creating, going to start creating lists of people by area. So don't let that put you off if you're just an individual. We can put you on a list, so to speak. So yeah, thanks so much, Terry, again for coming
My
and
pleasure.
chatting. And if you want to contact us, you know how. And yeah, keep speaking out, people, and come and find us. And together we are stronger. Much love, and catch you next time.